They might be self-aware.
Dancing on the edge of the singularity you must be listening to. They might be self-aware with your hosts, Hunter Powers and
Daniel Bishop. Dancing on the edge of the singularity. That feels cinematic, like I'm about to fall into a black hole of progress, I guess.
Well, is your name?
You should pronounce the name Przemysław Dębiak.
Semislav Dębiak. Nailed it.
Dębiak. Is that...
It's just a Polish name.
Yeah, but we should
it's a
be...
toughie. Everyone should know that name and know how to pronounce it.
Yeah, right. They're my champion now. If I need to go into battle, I am calling on
Semislav Dębiak.
Yes, because they did something very important. They defeated the AI in the AI war that you may or may not have been aware happened.
That's right. So there was a head-to-head coding competition. It was the @Coder World Tour Finals 2025 heuristic contest. It was in Tokyo, and an OpenAI model was going, head-to-head against a Polish programmer, Semislav, and also known as Psyho online.
Psyho,
That's a little easier for other people to pronounce. It was 10 hours long.
Oh, wait, this is Psyho?
Yes.
All
go.
right, well, even better. So 10 hours, you said? Is it a 10-hour competition?
10 hours, which is a marathon programming session. And this is on some big heuristic, algorithmic sort of thing. Like, it's one
real
of those...
computer science.
Yeah, very, very, very computer science as opposed to Vibe Code Me a website, shall we say. And the human came out on top, but very much was saying like, wow, I was exhausted at the end of this. It really took a lot out of me. This, like, are we at the very edge then of these systems can just outperform best humans under more circumstances?
At these kinds of tests, it would seem like we are. We certainly have many tests now where the AI regularly outperforms humans, especially when you take the amount of tests that they're able to take. There are issues with this in the degree to which these AI models have been trained to take these tests. They've been overfit to the test. But yes, the days of humans beating AI agents, let's just call them that, in mathematical based competitions, those days are dwindling. Similarly, Magnus Carlsen, are you familiar with him? Famous chess player?
Chess player, exactly.
He recently had a match against a large language model. Now, not a chess model. Not a chess computer, not a chess algorithm, just ChatGPT, basically. And he defeated the AI agent in this case as well. So, humans, we still have, these are our dying gasps, but we are still gasping in these competitions.
That's right. There's a piece of American folklore. I don't know if you're familiar with John Henry. So for those who may not know or remember, John Henry is an African-American freedman who famously went in a competition against a drilling machine for making a railway and came out ahead of the machine, to sort of the applause and so on of the humans, to show no, humans are still better than any machine. Yeah. And then he died from sort of overexertion. And I think that's kind of the vibe that they were going for with this competition. Wow, that took so much out of me. I coded so hard, nearly to death practically. And so I think that's kind of the parallel that they're trying to show there. But it is sort of an apt analogy to make, because we have a traditionally human done job, that of programmer, and a machine that is a new innovation that could be putting a lot of those other people out of jobs.
It's interesting that obviously,
or at least that's the implication, right?
we as humans gave up the physical strength war a long time ago. We accepted that a car can go faster than human can run. Car go faster than human. Yeah. Well, horses, I can think a little bit different, but
I think most horses are slower than cars. Most cars.
Sure. But as far as like we'll give you this one technology. You can be stronger than us. That forklift can lift more than man. Yes, I can lift this much. Forklift can lift more.
Right.
We
hydraulics will do a lot for you.
Yeah, we cede the power to the technology. I wonder, and I guess there was when we were crossing that path as well, sort of similar trepidation about it. What does it mean when the technology is stronger in terms of just raw physical power than the humans? What does that mean? I guess going back to wars, when all of a sudden there were bullets and not just guns shooting things, opposed to I had to physically
arrows or spears
throw stuff. I was throwing at one point. We were throwing rocks at each other, and then someone realized, well, what if we use this mechanism that shot the rock for us? So we're fearful of these crossing points when technology takes over in areas where we once at least perceived ourselves to reign supreme.
Sure. But is that not really the whole human experience?
Losing?
Sort of. Throughout the entirety of humankind, we're not the only tool users in the animal kingdom. Crows famously can take a little piece of wire to get a thing out of a bottle or what have you. But generally speaking, tool use and improvement and that ability to interact with the world in this sort of way is a defining feature of, I think, humans. And so we take our own capabilities and augment them. By virtue of,
agreed.
I can stab a guy with this spear, or I could throw that spear, or I could make a mechanical, multiplier of what that spear throw would be into a bow and arrow. And then, I could turn that into a cannon, into a smaller gun, into a missile, et cetera, et cetera. The arms race of weaponry has also been the arms race of every other kind of technology out there. Sure. When it comes to agriculture, there's a reason why people don't just hand plant every field whenever they have the money for the, capital. I mean, there are unfortunately parts of the world where you do still have to do everything completely by hand. But at least in America and many other places, much of the farming is not done very by hand. You have huge machines that can plant a gazillion things at once, and there's automated or semi-automated weeding and crop control and this and that and the other thing. And that's agriculture. Or war, or every other field up to now and including programming. Tools can make people better at what it is that they're already doing. A couple of episodes ago, we were talking about how Mark Zuckerberg is working on this personal superintelligence that will hopefully make you better at what you do for everything, which I think is the promise made manifest, right? Of what is a large language model? What is ChatGPT? GPT 3.5 is a neat, very impressive toy that didn't really do anything on its own. But the latest tools that are available, OpenAI has their operator mode, and Gemini and a bunch of the others, including OpenAI, have their deep research mode, and all of these other tools that the LLMs now have are giving the average person the ability to say interact in a potentially meaningful from an economic perspective way with the world around me. It is a tool that is, it's changing the world. It truly is. And I don't think that there's any putting that back in the box, so to speak. John Henry's or anything else's otherwise. This is what that progress looks like, even if that progress is going to leave some bodies in its wake.
So it's the inevitable evolution of the human species.
I think so. I'm not saying Neuralink, have it, plugged directly into your brain.
No,
but,
that's tomorrow.
Right. But
don't get ahead of yourself.
Computers
this
as
is today.
PCs as a passing fad. There's famously the occasional person from the 70s or wherever 80s. Oh yeah, computers, it's a fad. No one's going to have one. Oh, the internet, it'll be gone in a couple of weeks. Obviously not. And now we have phones, not just a phone on a hook on the wall, but our entire lives are in these things. So too, large language models, I firmly believe, are part of the evolution of how we will be interacting with the entirety of the world. There's a lot of weird false starts. There's people who are getting hurt along the way. You know, AI therapists that are telling you to kill instead of help, for example. There are problems with this technology, but there's problems with any kind of technology. You can run over a guy with a thresher just as much as you can help thresh wheat. And people always will misuse tools at least a little bit. In a not misusing it to like thresh people accidentally way, but in a very greedy way. There's I'll call a misuse of the technology that's coming out. It's an obvious use, and I don't think it's like generative AI, large language models. I think this is just what's traditional machine learning. Delta is going to be using AI. Again, I don't think they mean generative models. I think they mean like just quote unquote regular algorithms. Delta's using AI to set the maximum price that people are willing to pay for tickets. And I don't mean like a blanket statement for that seat on that flight, but rather you, Hunter, or you, the listener, logging on to Delta and saying, I want a flight to Schenectady in mid-March. It will take whatever it knows about you and then give you a price that hopefully you're willing to pay for it. I think this is a terrible idea. I also think it's an obvious idea that
also they've already been doing this. Like there's been for a long time, you've been able, if you use the VPN and change your location, you can see different prices for flights. Especially if you change your location to being in a poorer country looking for a flight in the United States, famously, you can see a better rate because they're doing the exact same thing, figuring out what's the most you could spend, what's the probability that we can sell at this flight at this price. Okay, we will let you book it for less money to maximize. But
this is on a more individual basis. This is to say, like, we, through cookies or through whatever, have figured out what your socioeconomic status is.
In theory.
And we're pretty sure that you're going to be more willing to pay an extra $40 for this flight compared to someone else who logged in earlier. And they've said that they've been having very positive results from this. From, I guess, like a purely capitalistic perspective, it makes sense from a supply and demand level to get ever more granular when it comes to, I have a supply and I'll figure out the price that I can get, not from the market, but from a specific person. And you could think, speaking of like the history of humanity and everything, before there was paper money and like set prices for goods, it's what you could get out of somebody, whether it be literally bartering different goods back and forth, or once there was money, like, oh yeah, this price, if I'm not someone who's just going to put a blanket price on something, I'm willing to barter back and forth. Bartering on prices is a like core tenet of entire swaths of the world to this very day. Just because in America we go to the store and we say an orange costs $1 or whatever, doesn't mean that it's somewhere else in the world definitely $1 for every one of these oranges. So Delta's saying we'll do that.
This is nothing new.
But it's being applied more broadly for a fairly expensive set of purchases.
The term
I guess you could say the same of like car purchases too, right? Like the sticker price is not necessarily what you end up paying.
Sure. The term is, or the economics term is consumer surplus, which is the difference between anything that you purchase, the value that you get from it, or the price that you'd be willing to pay for it, and its actual price. And so the delta there, if
delta,
yeah, but I don't know, take your laptop that you're on right now. Sure. Is probably worth more to you than the price that you paid for it. It was a good deal getting this particular computer, most likely.
Just because of all the stuff that it currently has on it?
No, because the utility that you get from it. If they increase the price of your laptop by $500, would it still be a good buy for you? I'm going to guess. For you and Daniel in particular, you'd probably still buy the same laptop. You wouldn't go like, I'm going to get something else then. It's definitely true for me. My MacBook Pro, which is very expensive, I would pay a lot more for it if I had to, because I get way more value out of that particular laptop than the amount of money that it costs me. And that's my consumer surplus, which is a good thing as a consumer. You want to have surplus. I want to be getting more value from the thing that I'm purchasing than what it actually costs. I don't want an even split. But as a company, they're constantly figuring out how to maximize the consumer surplus. And the thing about consumer surplus is that it is an individual thing. The value that I'm getting is different than the value my mom's getting from a laptop. She barely uses your laptop. So if they raise the price by $1,000, she's not going to buy one.
Right.
I'll still buy one because it's how I make my living.
You need one for your work.
I need one. It makes
it's your window
money
to the universe.
Absolutely. So companies.
And if you, a salesman at a company, need to get to Schenectady for that big sales meeting, and then you log on and, you know, Delta's been looking through your emails because they've got a Microsoft agreement or something, and they say it's going to be $4,000 for that flight. And the salesperson like, that sucks. Good thing I don't have to do it. Hey, accounting department, this one's going to be rough. And like, I don't like that. I realize also that this is unfortunately not anything that anyone's going to be able to fight against. It was basically inevitable that this would happen. And I know we're talking about this on the AI podcast, and I don't think that this is like generative AI. You know, it's not making images out of nothing. It's not sound. It's not videos. It's setting a price based off of a bunch of metadata. That's traditional machine learning, which is still quote unquote AI.
In enterprise software, which both of us have worked in, nobody pays the same price. And it's exactly
which is
this
a
model.
weird thing to get used to.
Yeah. And so you're working for a company that's building some piece of software that's selling it to other large companies. Every person that's purchasing it is paying a different price for the exact same thing. And the prices might vary wildly. One person's paying $10,000. One person's paying $1 million for the exact same thing. Why does one company pay $1 million? Because the value that they're getting out of the product. They're a giant company. They're going to be able to get way more value out of this product than some mom and pop, which you also want to be able to sell to. So the mom and pop store, you charge $10,000, and the giant company, you charge $1 million, even though it costs you the same amount of money to deliver that experience. Now, there's usually a longer sales cycle for the $1 million contract versus the $10,000 contract. But this idea of changing the price based on the value that the person is going to receive from it, which is really all we're talking about. Delta's saying, hey, rich person, I'm just going to guess that you're getting a little more value out of this. You're willing to pay more for it. It's worth more to you. So I'm going to charge you more.
But they already have that. It's first class and economy plus and regular economy and
they're just dividing
-2 economy in the back. We all have to stand up.
They're just subdividing it even more, right? So now first class, but there's
now
a
it's
big
that
difference.
one individual seat in first class for you specifically.
And if they were willing to customize that seat for me specifically, I'd probably be all about it. But it's the uncomfortable part of, okay, yeah, we're all in coach and we have the exact same seats, but you're charging me 3 times as much as the person next to me.
Because you know that I had a relative die and I need to get to Schenectady. I don't know why it's a fun name.
There's that, but I think it's just more about the means. I mean, but isn't that how taxes kind of work too? Like I kind of get the same utilities that someone else gets, but we might be paying very different amounts of taxes back to the government.
Depends on how good your accountants are, right?
Sure. To supply these taxes, this concept isn't new. And I honestly
I don't want to go to let us take the big purchase of a plane ticket and then abstract that farther away. Take a silly example. I don't want to go to like a vending machine and say, I want to buy a Coke. And then it scans my face and is like, oh, well, you must be in this tax bracket. It's $18 for a Coke. And I'm like, I have $18 and I do want a Coke. Yes, I am technically willing. I'm really thirsty. It does a scan of my face. It's like, oh, look how sallow he is. He must be dehydrated and really needs a refreshing ice cold Coca-Cola. And
you're not supposed to
charges
want
me
this.
for that.
You're not supposed to want. Nobody wants this, but just like it's inevitable that the machine will be stronger than the man and the machine will outsmart the man, isn't this also inevitable that you are going to have to pay $20 for the Coke because it's going to look at you and be like, this dude can afford a $20 Coke. It's inevitable. I mean, unless you want legislation
anymore.
It's just
I want
inevitable.
Depersonalization. In fact, hey, this is where the LLM can really come into play, where you take the person out of it entirely and you're just having a faceless agent that's like, I am a representative of a meat human that wishes to acquire one Coca-Cola unit, please. And then it says like, well, how rich is he? And the LLM's like, I ain't telling you shit.
Also inevitable, right? And that's not an uncommon practice amongst the Uber elite. They don't negotiate directly.
But I'm not buying software as a service. I'm buying a Coke. You know, I don't. Here's the crux of my problem.
You're buying.
I understand software as a service companies are going to pay different for like the same thing, and I understand that like a flight costs the same amount for Delta to operate one versus another, but I don't think that the same service for like not a company to company, like B2B stuff, I understand, but business to consumer, I feel like should be set prices. I think that's the line that I'm starting to figure out that I want to draw mentally. Business to consumer, consumers should have the same price. And this goes for like medication costs. And I know certain parts of the world get like medication at wildly different price. And that has like politics and stuff underlying it. But generally speaking, the pill being made in whatever place, Jamaica costs the same. A Coke should be, or at least within per country or per administrative region. You know, the state of Florida caps a Coke being $1 or X, Y, or Z.
I believe that is our new policy right around medical prices, that whatever, as a company, you have to charge the United States as a country the lowest price that you offer any other country. So charge other countries more if you want, but you can't charge us more than any other country. So you sell your Cokes or drugs. Well, Coke can be a drug, right?
Right.
There's a medical grade Coke, I think.
Yeah.
You want to sell your Coke in America and Russia? Sure. You can't charge us more than you charge Russia. That's I think favored nations. Is that the term for that concept?
We are out of my depth when it comes to international economics, unfortunately.
But that's the policy that your suggestion is any consumer product you cannot charge different prices for, even if
I'd say within the same country, you know, or at least let's call it within the same currency, maybe.
But what about? I mean, let's take the medicine angle. I mean, there is an ethical argument that, all right, you're making some incredible new super drug, which costs you a lot of money to make.
Right.
And so you decide that, look, I'm going to take a look at what your current economic tier is. Mm-hmm. You're making 50 grand a year. You're making 500 grand a year. And I'm going to change the prices based on that because I want to split up my total cost across these
they're
tiers.
saying you won't end up with cancer at the end of this. But you're going to have no money left, and we need to figure out how much is no money left.
But you're not okay with that. So great. You find a cancer drug. It can cure cancer, but it costs $50,000 for the treatment. So one solution is
which means that certain people can afford it and certain people can't.
Correct.
And your idea is dynamic pricing to make sure everyone can afford it. But
and you can pay
presumably like certain companies are going to make certain kinds of goods, not just like the most that it's the most that anyone would be willing to pay regardless of their situation.
Well, I'm just saying there's this blended strategy where it's based off of your income level for this $50,000 so that if you are making under $50,000 a year, so it represents a year of your salary, you only pay $1,000. And if you're making over $500,000 a year, you got to pay the full price at $50,000. And if you're making over $2 million a year, it costs $150,000. And with that pricing strategy, they're able to deliver this life-saving drug to everyone. But you would kill those people. You're a murderer. This is basically what it's coming down to.
No, I think I'd rather everyone just pay the really low cost for it.
But they can't. You can't.
But then how do you subsidize it or how
Correct.
And again, we're out of my economic depth here. I do actually think that like subsidizing low cost access, especially for healthcare, like if we're looking at that specific industry, I think subsidizing low cost healthcare through higher prices for others that could afford it does, at least at some surface level to me. I have not thought through everything here. At me in the comments. I'll read it. You know, whatever you've got to say. I know that this is a very sticky issue for a lot of people too. But at the surface level, charge those who can afford it more so that people who can't afford it could get it for cheap or free. If that were actually implemented at that sort of like level and approach, I guess I'm fine with that, I suppose. I still don't want my Delta flight to cost 3 times as much because it saw a tweet saying that I sure do want to go to Croatia this year. And then everyone else is flying for, a $500 special round trip. And I've got $5,000 that I had to shell out for it.
I mean, it's not that. It watched an episode of this show and saw you bought the Plod pen, and so it puts you into a certain economic class. It's like, well, those Plod pen users, they're big spenders. We're jacking up our prices for your next flight to Dallas.
I'm buying everything off of burner phones from now on, I guess.
I think that's what's actually inevitable. I think it's my saying, but
wait, you keep talking about sin eaters for it's the human who takes the blame for the AI. Now this is the opposite of that, where you're going to have an AI that is the blank intermediary of you're not allowed to know anything. I'm the shield between you. It's like a firewall that you can talk to. Of there is a person, and I'm not telling you anything about them, but I can still talk to you as a broker. Dare I say, this is back to a couple episodes ago too now, a travel agent LLM that you're not allowed to know what their economic status is. You're not allowed to know whatever, but I am going to get you a ticket at the end.
The technology will set us free. The technology is the solution to every problem that the technology introduces.
Just more technology, even more servers, more GPUs. Cook the planet just a little bit faster, but this is definitely better.
Crazy laws, new things. It's fine because it's just new problems to solve. Great. Now you're going to customize every price of every seat. We can solve that with technology. We can create an entirely anonymous user, or I'm going to create a user that looks like they're so broke that you're gonna this guy. I don't know. We can charge him $5 for this.
But the problem is that you still have to give legally identifiable information to the airline at the end. And I've had plenty of times where price, go to the pay screen. Oh, this is more than I thought it was going to be.
We will solve it. The technology will set us free, Daniel.
I think I just need to have my digital persona make me appear as poor as possible and just everyone start working on that now. Go through all of your online whatever, start faking it where you look as economically disadvantaged as possible, because apparently that's going to get you cheaper flight prices in the future.
You heard it here first, folks, in another episode of They Might Be Self-Aware.
They might be really outraged at how self-aware some of these things are getting.
But if you want even more, hit that subscribe button. You can find us on pretty much every platform that podcasts appear, whether it's the YouTubes or the TikToks or the Apple Podcasts. I don't even know. There's so
Spotify.
Many. Oh, yeah, we're there.
YouTube Shorts. I haven't talked about the YouTube Shorts in a while. A lot of overlap between that and the TikToks, but still. YouTube Shorts.
They have different music, whether you're on YouTube or TikTok. It's customized to the platform if you're curious. And if you are curious,
watch both. Tell us which you like better. A/B test yourself for us, if you would please.
I prefer the YouTube ones personally, but I do watch both. Just to be
me in the comments about economic theories. I will read whatever it is, crackpot or Daniel. Legitimate or otherwise, because I know I'm way off the mark from whatever probably almost everyone listening to this is. You let me know how you think about tiered pricing for things. Help set me straight, please. And also subscribe and give us some stars or something along the way, please.
And with that, folks, until next time when we shall return for yet another episode of
They Might Be Self-Aware.